Alrighty team, if you've been chasing your bar muscle up for months or even years and you feel like you are one rep away from giving up on the whole thing, just stay with me. Because with the right method, I have coached countless athletes across the globe, not just to hit their first bar muscle up, but to make their bar muscle up WOD-proof in as little as 6 to 12 weeks. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why what you've been doing hasn't been working and instead give you a step-by-step process to build you a bar muscle up that will actually last. So if you've been doing any of these, this is exactly why you're stuck. After class or whenever feels good, you're just trying random attempts. You're jumping onto the bar and just giving it a go. You're overly reliant on bands. Whenever a bar muscle up comes up in a workout or in a class, you grab the bands out and you successfully do quite a few reps and you feel really good about yourself. The problem with using bands is that it changes the technique of the bar muscle up and you can get really comfortable at doing a rep with bands, but if you're not doing the correct progressions around it, when you take the bands away, you are never gonna get the rep, and that is really important. I love using bands as one of the progressions with my athletes, but they're not overused and we don't rely on them. You're not receiving any consistent feedback. There are many different ways that you can get to your bar muscle up and you need to be properly coached along the way. Doing drills is actually really difficult to do properly, and if you don't have a coach that's working with you regularly to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, but also what the purpose of each drill is, you're going to be really stuck. And finally, we've got too many voices, too many people telling you that you're good enough to do it and you should be able to do it and just give it one more go, but then also not enough of the right voices giving you consistent help and feedback week to week. Now, the problem is these 4 things that I bet you are doing don't actually lead to getting a muscle up, they lead to a heap of things we don't want instead. So we get really frustrated because you're repeatedly trying the skill and not getting it, which is obviously a horrible thing to be doing. Perhaps you have gained this skill before, but then you lose it again. And we go through a few weeks where you can't do it, and then you jump up and suddenly you can do one, and then you jump down and you try another one, you can't get it. It's really frustrating, especially when you know you actually can do it, but you can't do it every time. I've spoken to so many athletes who have been trying this skill for years, and if you've been trying a skill for years and you still can't do it, there's a problem. And we're going to address these problems soon. And finally, maybe you can do a rep, but the rep's really ugly. You've got a big chicken wing. It's not something that looks good or feels good. This is the position we're in when we have these pieces of ingredients going into it. Now, on the flip side, what are we actually chasing? What would be really nice here? It would be awesome if we could gain your bar muscle up in 12 weeks. When you gain the skill, how good would it be if you actually kept it and that you knew every time you jumped up to do that movement, you were going to confidently keep it. And not just every time you jumped up, you were going to keep it, you were also going to do it with beautiful technique. What pieces of the puzzle do we need to make that happen? We need to make sure you have the correct prerequisite strength in order to start the movement, and I will tell you exactly what that is in a second. You need to be following structured progressions, and these progressions don't just make sense for the correct order to learn the skill, they also match you where you are and they fill in weaknesses that you have within the movement. You need feedback with this skill. This is a really tricky skill to learn because there's a very set and specific sequence of shapes that your body needs to hit at speed at the right time. And in order to make sure you're doing those, you need to have feedback and coaching along the way. And in this video, I am going to show you exactly what those shapes are and how you should be hitting them. And finally, you need to make sure that you are actually implementing the work, implementing the right drills at the right time and following through with this plan. The reason the method works that I'm about to show you is because we don't try and just get a bar muscle up. There are 4 clear things that you need to do as an athlete to take you from not having one to having one. And that looks like this. Like I've already said at the start, you need to have the correct prerequisite strength. And this isn't just being generally strong as an individual, this is being strong in a way that is actually going to help you get a bar muscle up. So when athletes tell me, hey Briscoe, I want to hit my first bar muscle up, I ask them, can they do these 5 things? The first 3 are 10 strict pull-ups, 5 strict dips, and a bench press that is equal to your body weight. Ultimately, the bar muscle up comes down to push strength and pull strength, and these 3 things tell me that you are really strong in both of those areas. Whilst it is possible to get a bar muscle up if you can only do 3 or 5 pull-ups or 3 dips, it's a lot harder. If you can hit this level of strict strength before you start doing the drills, I'm very confident you will get the skill in 6 to 12 weeks. The next 2 are related to skills. So I've got 15 plus unbroken toes to bar and 15 plus unbroken kipping handstand push-ups. Now, this might seem confusing because there isn't a direct correlation between a handstand push-up and a bar muscle-up, but what this shows me is that the athlete is highly competent at lower level gymnastic skills, and therefore it makes sense to start a bar muscle-up. If you can only do a handful of toes to bar, a couple of kipping handstand push-ups, you're still doing just a few kipping pull-ups, this movement is going to be out of reach. It's really important that you are competent across the lower level skills first if you actually want to get this skill in 6 to 12 weeks. When I talk with athletes that are way off these movements, maybe they can do a couple of pull-ups, up to 5 toes to bar, etc., we actually spend the time working on building these requisites, building volume of the lower level gymnastic skills, and building strict strength. And when the athlete is ready, when they're close to hitting these 5 things, that's when we start the drills, and that's why we can get this movement down in a short period of time. So let's assume that you've got the prerequisite strength, or you're close enough to start working on, doesn't need to be perfect. We're actually going to build a box method bar muscle up. This is an assisted version of the rep that I have discovered over the years massively shortens the amount of time it takes to learn the rep, because we're able to teach the athlete to hit the correct shapes far more easily, far more quickly, and with a lot less fails and building bad habits along the way. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what the box method is and the 5 stages that are involved in it. But essentially, the athlete is going to start off the floor. Their feet are going to be either side on one box each, and the hands are already going to be on the rig. This means that jumping into the bar and hitting the initial first few shapes is much simpler and much easier to do, and we can get a muscle up where we jump off the box and hit a full rep quite easily. This isn't to be confused where you start with 2 feet on the box and you jump up and you just do a box jumping bar muscle up. This is a full bar muscle up rep. We're just starting elevated off the floor. Once an athlete can do this, the next stage in the rung is to hit a 10-minute EMOM of that box method and to hit all 10 reps. That shows me that the athlete didn't just hit one by fluke. They fully understand the shapes that they need to hit, they're able to do them consistently, and they can hit 10 in a row with confidence. Once the athlete is at that point, we're pretty much done. Now we just need to take the boxes away. We repeat the drills from the box method on the floor, and pretty much within one session, the athlete has their bar muscle up from the floor. Okay, so let's go into exactly what this box method is. There's 5 stages involved in this drill, and I'm actually going to explain exactly what each one is and show you real life examples of my athletes working on this. So you can't just see me doing a perfect demonstration. You can see real people all around the world doing these drills, and I'll tell you exactly why they're doing them well. Okay, so stage 1 in the drill, we have Megan on the screen now. As you can see by the start position, she's got 2 feet on the box, her hands are already on the rig, and importantly, when you start the drill, you need to jump backwards. If you try and jump up in this, you're going to have a lot of downward force in this jump to hollow, which is wrong. If when you're doing it, you feel like you're clunking the rep down, then we haven't got the correct entry. What Megan does really well is that she swings in a nice pendulum style through, all the way through. She holds her hollow shape and she comes all the way back and lands on the boxes. This sounds really easy, but it's actually quite difficult to do in practice. So make sure that you're aiming for that nice, smooth swing, your shoulders are staying engaged, and you're keeping a really strong and still hollow position. Next stage in the drill is to add the arch, and showing us how to do this is going to be Vanessa. In this first drill, we're going to use a foam roller as a target for your feet. To set this up, you'll sit on the floor, you'll put your legs out in front, and the leg length dictates how far the foam roller should be from the boxes. Stay in start position, 2 feet on the box, hands on the bar. You jump backwards, hit that strong hollow position behind the bar, and the aim here is that your feet need to swing through and touch the foam roller, and that is the cue for the timing of the arch. The arch is really difficult to do in practice because athletes break into it too early. The whole purpose of these 2 starting drills is to learn how to hold the hollow position as you travel under the rig, and you only break into the arch when you're past the rig. Once you've got the timing right with the foam roller, Vanessa also shows us a rep without one, and as you can see, her arch is really nice and powerful, and she hits a really tight shape in front of the rig. There should be that moment of weightlessness, which she has, where she kind of pops through at the end, and that shows us that she's got the timing spot on. Next up, we need to add a pull down, and showing us how to do this is going to be Bronwyn. Her camera angle isn't great, but you're going to be able to see what she's doing. Again, same start position, she jumps backwards, hits a hollow behind the rig, she holds it as she goes underneath, delays the arch which comes out in front of the screen, and she does a really strong and solid pull down on the bar. Legs don't need to be involved at this point. The whole purpose of this drill is to practice how maximally you can pull down or push down and engage your lats. And the idea here is that you pull down so hard that you throw yourself up, and if you jump backwards off the bar, that's totally fine. Just be safe. Here's where things start to get a little bit trickier. Now we're gonna add the knee tuck. There's a few different ways that you can learn a bar muscle up, but I found, especially with female athletes, that doing a knee tuck method is the easiest to actually implement. Here we have Lisa, slightly different setup on this one. She is meant to be on boxes with her hands on the rig, but I couldn't get that video from her, so I've got this one where she's jumping up, still hitting the same shapes. Hollow comes first, she delays the arch. She does the max pull down with her arms, but now we add a knee tuck. So what she's aiming for is to get her knees up towards her elbows, and she's trying to tuck into a tight ball as high up behind the bar as she can. What I'm looking for is that her feet are up in line with her knees, so they're not dangling. I'm looking for a really tight shape up and behind the rig, and I'm looking to see that she's hit all of her shapes before the knee tuck. So she's still got the hollow, the delayed arch, and a really big pull down that is just timed with her knees coming up. Stage 5 is adding in the hip hop, and this is normally quite difficult to do, which is why for the first time we're going to add a band in to assist. The important thing here is that we hit the knee drive, and then we rapidly extend by straightening our hips, bringing them up to the bar. And the purpose of this drill is to think about pushing the bar down to your hips and trying to make a connection of your hips to the bar. If you can get this drill to the stage where you actually touch your hips on the bar, you can 100% do a muscle up. So this is Liz. She hits her initial shape, she brings her knees up and she extends. Now, this rep isn't perfect, and the reason it isn't is because she's using bands. Bands distort the initial arch, they mess up the initial timing, and they shorten the whole rep down. And that's why you can use bands a little bit, but they definitely shouldn't be relied on. So let's watch this again. She jumps backwards, hits a hollow arch, knees tuck, and then she extends her hips. Next up, we have Hannah. Again, her setup isn't exactly how I mentioned it before. She doesn't have boxes at her gym that she can use, so we're using a bench, but it's the same idea. Hannah actually gets the hip to bar connection, and she gets it without a band. So at this point in the movement, if you can do this, you are ready to go forward and add the turnover in. Normally, athletes spend the longest period of time working on this stage of the drill, but it is the most important part. If you can get a hip to bar connection where you are actively pushing the bar down and you've got the timing right of the hip hop, then you can absolutely turn over. If you can't do this, when you try and do a bar muscle up, you're going to end up doing a chest to bar rep, which is how most people fail. So Hannah, the video again isn't perfect. I can't show you the initial phases, but she hits the hollow, delays the arch, hits the arch in front of the bar, does the big pull down, drives the knees up, and when she rapidly extends, she gets a hip to bar connection. And that is the really, really key part here, is what we're aiming for. Once you can do that, you can do this assisted rep, and we can tick off this rung of the ladder. So this is exactly what it looks like. Woo! She gets all the way over. So as you can see, this was Heidi's first attempt at doing this. She starts with her feet on the box, hands on the bar, hits all of her shapes. She does a really powerful hip hop. Her hips make the connection. And from here, all you have to do is push down on the bar and keep your chin up. If you can keep your eyes up as you're traveling backwards, and as you do this hip hop, you directly push down on the bar, you are going to turn over. You don't need to ever think in a bar muscle up about pulling in. A lot of athletes actually, when they're doing the hip hop, they've accidentally done the bar muscle up. Because if you get the hip hop right and you get the hip to bar connection, more often than not, you're just gonna roll over. And that's happened so many times, which is also pretty cool. If when you're trying the full turnover, you don't quite get it, here's another stage where we could add bands in. This is Karina. Again, she's got bands, so her initial shapes aren't going to be quite right because everything is cut short, but you can still see that she gets the right idea and she can feel the movement enough. And then, like I said, once you can do this movement with the double boxes, I need you to hit a 10-minute EMOM, 10 in a row, which are consistent, and then you can do these from the floor. I guarantee once you can do them from the box and you hit the right shapes, your body knows what to do. You just have to jump a bit higher to get onto the bar. So if you've been stuck on this skill for months or years, it's not that you're incapable. It might be that we're not strong enough to start, or it might be that you're not following the right method to get you there. Bar muscle ups, pull-ups, snatches, they all follow some sort of pattern, and if you can't do one, it's not because you're not trying, it's just because you're probably not following the right system. So if you want to see how we can build this across all of your training, not just getting your bar muscle up, I've linked a video below that's going to run through a bigger model and show you how we can structure your training week and training cycles so that you can regularly hit PBs, feel confident and capable in what you're doing, and actually be truly fulfilled from your training.